Hey guys, it's Kelly. Welcome back. Today we're doing more Crockpot recipes in honor of Crocktober. I will link the playlist from last week down below. And if Kat over at Mama Cat's Home has a new playlist today, I will also link the updated playlist. Let's get started. Hey guys, let's get our first Crockpot recipe started. I'm making dessert first, and then I'm going to show you what we're making for dinner. I'm just starting with a box mix banana cake, some Reese's peanut butter chips, and I'm going to be using 2 of the bananas. I've never made a cake in the crock pot before. I've done it in the Instant Pot, never in the crock pot. I decided to line the pan with the foil. I've seen so many recipes on how to do this. Some say cook on high, some say cook on low, all different times. Some say use parchment paper, some say just spray the pan. So after all the recipes I read, I decided to do the foil. I'm going to spray it a little bit just so the things don't stick. I'm going to put it in and I'm going to do it for 3 hours on low. Let's get started. I'm following the box directions. Everything I read on making a cake in the crock pot is you have to follow the box directions and mix it up. Unlike a dump cake where sometimes you're just putting fruit down on the bottom of a pan and then putting the cake and maybe some butter on top, it says to follow the package directions. I added my water, eggs, and oil, and I ended up using 2 of the bananas. I probably could have used 3, but I used 2. While I was doing that, I was thinking it would be really good with chocolate chips. And I did have chocolate chips, but I had already decided I was going to make it a peanut butter banana cake. Got the bananas into the mix, and I believe that bag I had was 10 ounces of chips. It was kind of a small bag. I used about half of it. Then it was time to get it into the crock pot. The main reason I went with using foil after looking at so many recipes is some of the people who did it with just parchment paper on the bottom or parchment paper lined up a little bit, the edges kind of burned. The center was okay, but the edges burned. So that was my reason for going with the foil. So after I had the foil in there and I had it up the edges, I just sprayed it with a little cooking spray, and then it's time to get the batter in. Pretty much every recipe I looked at said to put a clean kitchen towel or paper towels on top, and that's for the steam. So I did like 3 layers of paper towels, and then I put my lid on. My crock pot has that locking lid for transporting, and there's a hole in the top. I don't even remember if my old crock pot had a hole in the lid. Do they all have holes in the lid? I don't know. But this was something I was noticing because they were talking about the steam and how you have to put something to absorb it. So that's what I did. I set it on low and I let it go for 3 hours. Right at the 3 hour mark, I took the lid off and tested it. It was perfect. I feel like I got really lucky with this recipe based on the fact that I read so many and there were different times. Some said high, some said low, use foil, don't use foil. The outside came out great. It was like if you made a banana bread in a loaf pan. You want that nice brown top and you want it nice and soft in the middle. Only a little piece cracked off when I was taking it off the foil. I did let it cool for quite a bit, so definitely let it cool for quite a bit. The bottom, I'm trying not to crack it, but I'm trying to show you, same way. The center was great. I could have used that 3rd banana. If I did have 3 bananas next time, I would have thrown the 3rd one in. I left the foil back there just to show you guys. Some of the peanut butter chips did fall down through, but you can still taste the peanut butter in the middle. The only thing I think I would do differently next time, I would still do the foil to keep the edges from burning, but I would put some parchment paper down at the bottom of the foil. I think that would probably help a little bit for it sticking. But it really was no big deal, and it didn't taste burnt at all. We didn't do any frosting or anything on this. Some of us had it with whipped cream and some of us had it with ice cream. So here's a look at how it was in the middle. You can see the chips and you can just tell how nice and soft it is with the bananas in there. So overall, I think it was a success. Now it's time to see what we made for dinner in our crock pot. Today's crock pot recipe is Sloppy Joe's. This is a recipe I found in an Instant Pot cookbook. I've made it twice. I've never made it in the crock pot, and I saw no reason why it wouldn't work. It's just obviously going to be a longer cooking time. I have 2 pounds of ground meat. The recipe calls for 1.5 pounds, but I know I needed more. I used an onion. I used half of that pepper. It was a pretty big pepper. Plus I had orange and red left over that I wanted to add for a little bit of color. I'm going to brown my meat up, and to the meat, just for seasoning, I'm going to add some black pepper and some garlic powder. We're also going to be adding in our onions and our garlic and peppers once the meat is almost brown. But here's a shot of the cookbook I used, and I'll have it on the screen, so if you want to pause it to read the recipe, you can. Again, I said it was an Instant Pot cookbook. Most of these recipes can be made in the crock pot. The one thing I did leave out was the can of baked beans. I like baked beans, but I've never had them in a sloppy joe, and I don't know if I would really like it. So I didn't really want to try that. So even when I made it the Instant Pot, I did not use the baked beans. Once I had my meat browned, it needed to be drained. Then it was time to add our garlic and our onions and our peppers. Once I had all of that in there, I just let it simmer on low for maybe about 5 to 7 minutes, just to, soften them up and get the flavors in with the meat. And then it was time to get it into the crock pot. Once it was in the crock pot, it was time to start adding everything else. I started with the ketchup and then the barbecue sauce. I didn't measure it. If you guys have watched me long enough by now, you know that unless I really have to measure something, I'm not going to. Plus, I know I like the flavor of the ketchup a little bit more in a sloppy joe than barbecue sauce. If you're the opposite, put more barbecue sauce. It's your crock pot dinner, right? Then it was time to add the Worcestershire, and I'm pretty good about measuring stuff like that. I did add a little bit more because I was using 2 pounds of meat instead of 1.5. Apple cider vinegar I measured, and then I put a little extra brown sugar because I know I like that flavor, and I stuck to the tablespoon on the chili powder. Once I got it mixed together though, I realized it did need a little more something, so I added a little bit more ketchup, put the lid on, and set it on low. After I did that, I figured I'd get one of my sides out of the way for the night. We were just having this pasta salad. I got this at Aldi. I never tried this brand before this night. It ended up being really good. I thought it tasted as good as I think it's the Betty Crocker one. So I got that ready and threw it in the fridge. Now, after about 2.5 hours, I did check on the Sloppy Joes. Here we are at the 3.5 hour mark. So at 2.5 hours, to me, it looked a little bit dry. So I added about 1/4 cup of water, and I added a little bit more ketchup. I had only made this before in the Instant Pot, so maybe that's why it needed a little extra liquid. I don't know. But that's what I did at the 2.5 hour mark. Here is the 3.5 hour mark. And then I covered it and I let it go 1 more hour. And then it was time to serve. So I cooked for a total of just about 4.5 hours on low. I had already made that pasta salad earlier, but I knew I wanted to serve something else. So I just took a few yellow potatoes. I peeled them and I just kind of cubed them, sliced them, diced them. I mixed them up with some olive oil and wanted to do like a ranch fry this time. So I have some Hidden Valley Ranch seasoning that I'm adding. Then I add my favorite Kinders, the blend, which is the garlic powder, salt, and pepper. And I just mixed this all together. I cooked it in 2 batches in my air fryer at about 370 for 15 minutes. I just flipped them halfway through until they were soft. Here's how everything turned out. It was really good. This recipe turned out great in the crock pot. If you're not an Instant Pot person, I don't know. That cookbook is really good. Maybe check out some Instant Pot cookbooks because most of the recipes can easily be made in a crock pot. It's just going to take a little bit longer. So this one worked out fine with the addition of, a little bit into it. It was a little bit dry. I did have to add a little bit water and more ketchup, but it was an easy fix. This turned out great. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed, please do. I'd love to have you around. And check the link below because I am going to be linking the playlist. Thanks again for watching, you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.